time I close my eyes, I see the night again. In all the dreams I have, I hear the sound of angels cry. Take me back, I need to find those distant memories. Hold on close, only not far through it all. In all my life, I've been searching for a better world, but time has let me down. Here we stand on this broken land, raise my head up high, I can see the sun. We are the children, with fire in the sky, and we are the future. Our souls in the night will never die. Feel the change, it seems it's like the same old day to me. Nothing here I have to live before they capture me. In all my life I've been searching for a better world, but time has let me down. Here we stand on this broken land, raise my head up high, I can see the sun. We are the children, with fire in the sky. We are the future. Our souls in the night will never die.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Thursday night. We're in for a long night, but it's going to be fun. We are live with you, ladies and gentlemen.
That we are. And it's a
You know-
special night. It's a special night, Dave. Boy, talk about memories for tonight.
Oh,
This
yeah.
one.
This show was my first exposure to the National Wrestling Federation. If you watch closely, you'll see a young man sitting in the front row, right on the corner. That was me the day before I joined the company.
Yeah, that was quite a deal. And I'll just, we did 5 events at the Anoka Armory. This is the first one, and that's something about that first event that you do. And it wasn't just the first Armory event; it was the first public event we did as a league in front of real fans. Not us
Exactly.
wrestlers as a studio audience type situation, which we did plenty of. But
Right.
and you talk about being nervous and you excited, all wrapped up in one.
As I was just explaining not even 20 minutes ago to a friend of mine, this was our first time in front of a live paying crowd.
Yeah, and we didn't know what to expect. I can tell you this much: we were nervous and we were excited, but the excited level was higher than the nervous level. We just couldn't wait to get out there.
Oh yeah.
Now, for everybody watching who hasn't maybe seen this, as Jason Klassen once said in the documentary, we were ready enough. Meaning, technically speaking, not everybody's up to par. Some of these matches are going to be pretty. In fact, some of the guys maybe shouldn't have even really been in there yet. But, we were like Jason
You
said, we
know,
were ready enough.
to your credit, Crusher, you gave everybody a shot.
Yeah. Well, that was the
You know,
point. That was the point of the
if,
league.
yeah, I mean, we would we'd get together, we'd have our shows, and you know, the people that were better didn't criticize the ones that were not quite up to snuff.
Right.
They would just try to help elevate them to the next level.
And um, besides our celebration, now we're doing this event because it's the week of the event. May 9th, just 2 days ago, is when this thing took place, 37 years ago. But also
to a certain extent, not to compare it on production level, but to some degree, this was WrestleMania for the NWF.
Yeah. Meaning that, excuse me, Dave, meaning that it was a gamble for Vince to do WrestleMania. Boy, this Armory thing was a gamble for us. You got to realize when I made the call 3 months earlier that we're going to do the Anoka Armory, we didn't have a ring to go in there with that would be suitable, and we didn't have the money to pay for the Armory.
Right.
It doesn't come for free. So yeah, wow.
I mean, I just looked into it. Okay, didn't you say that the Armory was somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 when you did this event?
No, the Armory was about, if I remember, I'm just going by my memory, but it was around, to rent the Armory for the time we did, which we would take it for a half a day, so we'd get a half a day out of it. We got maybe it was about $300 to $400 for a half a day, somewhere in that neighborhood. But we had to put half of that down just to get the date.
Right.
So we had to put it.
Keep in mind, I was looking into the Armory for a nonprofit event coming up. You and I have discussed this. Now it's $75 an hour.
This is the Ice Dragon. He is the only real champion. He was the self-proclaimed Indiana State champion. I'd love him to come on so we can talk about that one. The Indiana State Championship.
Ice Dragon, I beg to differ with you. I beg to differ with you, Ice Dragon.
Well, you have that ready to come out right away, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you see the blue. Of course, I love the blue belt back there. That's the one I like.
Yeah.
Now, Dave, today, it's not just the fact that we're celebrating the first Armory event. It's also open mic night, where we're going to basically...
Exactly.
Any and everybody who wants to come on and be a guest is going to have the opportunity to jump on with us, whether you want to come on and just say hi or whatever. Depending on if we get anybody at all. But how many people we get, we might have to kind of cycle through everybody, but we want everybody to be able to come on and join us, as we celebrate this Anoka Armory event. And we're going to share that link here momentarily. The link will be in the comments section in YouTube or Facebook, and you'll have that link is what you'll pick to actually join the show with us.
Oh, okay. And if I may say, Ice Dragon,
Oh, yeah.
I've also got this handy.
Yeah.
I actually held that title, but I have almost every NWF title that Crusher Crossan has in his possession.
So yeah, this speaking of the Superstars Spectacular 86, that's what we called it. The reason we went with that name is because every big event had a name. WrestleMania, Wrestle Rock, Super Clash. So we didn't want to do. So ours was Superstar Spectacular 86, and I remember I called the AWA, I was in contact with Roy Nelson. I've talked about this before, and I told him, I said, Roy, we're doing our first public event. I wanted them to know about it. And
Right.
I said, we're calling it Superstar Spectacular 86. And he started laughing, chuckling. And I said, what's wrong? And he goes, oh, no, that just sounds like something we would do. But this was the program guide, Dave. I still have a few of these. The actual, yeah, the actual program guide. I don't have many left, but I have a few. And what's interesting here is we have ratings. Also, you see the upcoming return of Luxury Lane was supposed to come back. But these ratings are very interesting. Who do you think the number one contender was at this event?
I'm going to say it was either Pretty Boy Taylor or Mr. X.
Surprisingly, Pretty Boy Taylor is number 17.
Oh.
Mr. X doesn't even make the list. Mr. X2 was number 5. Number 1 was Thandar the Barbarian.
Huh.
And Slick Steenerson was number 2. Conan the Barbarian was number 3. Rockin' Ronabomb, number 4. So very interesting with the ratings. I don't know how that all went, but program guide for tonight's show. That was kind of cool. These were sold for, I think, well, it doesn't have a price on it, but I want to say we sold these for 50 cents. So.
Well, I remember I had one, and I was busy getting all the autographs on it.
Yeah, a lot of the kids love to get in those autographs. That's for sure. So yeah, let's get that link. Let's see, I gotta grab it.
Alrighty. But no, I was before the show started, I was talking to a friend of mine who we may meet later on here. And he's a former independent wrestler, and he basically told me he really respects what we did back in the 80s.
That's cool. That's always cool to hear that, especially from people who've been in the business.
Yeah.
Me and Charlie, when we went out to the Fan Fest in Maryland, we got a little bit of that from the guys too that we talked with. So it's always cool when you hear it from people in the business.
Right. I mean, we were a bunch of crazy kids, and you were the ringleader of the Motley Crew. You
notice in that countdown, people might recognize Jim Mitchell in those pictures.
Oh,
He was at our first Armory event, the Iron Duke. Just out of curiosity, he was there. Just curious what we were doing.
Yep.
Let's see here. All right, I'm going to post this link in the comments section. That is the link you use, and I'll do it in Facebook separately because Facebook has a kind of a separate thing going on. So there, I did it in Facebook as well. So that's the link you use to join in, and basically just pick that link, and you can come in as a guest. You'll show up in our feed, and then we can bring you in as a guest. And feel free to join in. This is a long night, Dave, so I'm going to start the show just to get this thing rolling.
Alrighty.
So let's get the Armory event up and running here. People still getting their seats here, but we're starting the show at the Anoka Armory. Not everybody was even sitting down. A lot of people are at the concession stand right now. But the show must go on at bell time, right, Dave?
Yep. I was just in that building here about a month ago, and
yeah,
I told the staff sergeant that was there, lots of memories in this building.
Yeah. When we did the documentary, we went in and filmed in there too, and that was the first time I had been there in a long time. Peter wanted to say something on the mic, and Jason goes, no, he wasn't going to let him. I don't know what Peter was going to say. Tokyo Terror I'm referring to.
Yep. Okay, we do have a guest waiting in the crowd.
All right, let's bring him on in.
You notice? Okay, hang on one second. This gentleman, he's somebody I've grown to have as a friend. I know him as Mike. I know him as Hammer. As you'll see on his name, a lot of fans down in South Wrestling may know him as Racer X.
Black Panther.
Let's welcome in my
Tokyo
friend,
Terror, lock up.
Mike Grimsley.
No action.
Hey,
Hey,
Mike.
how you doing, guys?
But good
We
to
are
finally
doing
see
pretty
you
good.
in person, and at least I've talked to you on Facebook.
Finally, a pleasure to talk to you in person, sir.
Yeah.
Lock up again.
What you
Oh,
guys
and
have
then
done here to me,
and that sends
you know,
Black
there's the
Panther
mystique
down.
of being in the business. You know, everybody's like,
What do you-
nobody around the ring until they're 18 years old. Everybody this, that, and the other.
Tokyo Terror.
But I thought to myself, I said, I want you guys to watch this. Had a couple of my friends look up what you do, and I said, I want you to watch
Kick.
how well put together and the love that these kids had for what we do.
Ooh, rams him into the
You
turnbuckle.
guys, I would just about say your love is more pure and genuine than the ones that us lifers had. You guys wanted it so bad.
Throws him into the turnbuckle again. Oh,
And to me, this is where
right
the
into
true heart of it comes from.
Oh,
I think that means a lot, Mike, hearing that, because you know what? You nailed it. That's how. You just brought me back to when I was 14 again, when I started this thing. That's how I felt. It was just the passion and the love of this whole thing. And even though it was a development thing, you know, we started out pretty rough, and even at this first event, we weren't quite ready yet. But
Right.
and he's got
but you're right, you know, and I've heard that from a few others, you know, that I've talked with, that they kind of ripple the same thing you're saying there, that you know, you can see the passion and then the love that we had, and we really did, Dave, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I mean everybody that was involved loved the sport, loved the business, and we just
rams him into the turnbuckle.
we all had the dream to be a pro wrestler. And how many people can say that they've lived out their dream at such a young age?
Exactly. Exactly. When I first got into the business, you know, when you get into the independents, and I worked in the independents here, and then I went to Wild Side. I went to NWA Wild Side. I worked there. Started working with AJ Styles and Ron Killings when I got into the business, and we were all nobodies. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
I watched us, you know, just saying, you know, I said to myself one night, I said, God, as long as I get in the ring and I hold a title, then it's job one. I don't care if it's independent. I don't care if it's pro. I don't care where it's at. Not only that, I wound up being trained by one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and that's Dusty Rhodes, who went to Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. And the things that I learned from the dream were unbelievable. Glacier, Ray Lloyd from WCW was my immediate trainer at the school. And he was one of those people that he admitted everything that y'all talk about and show here. Ray Lloyd was one of those people. He would have absolutely, and I'm going to try to get him to come on and see this, he would have absolutely loved this.
Oh, that's cool.
He would have freaked out and said, this is the true roots of what pro wrestling is all about. And it truly is. It's not about the fireworks. It's not about the entryways. It's all about the love that people want to have to do it. And it's about
Now, what's he gonna do?
that gold.
He's waiting him out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the hard thing about doing it when we're kids, from what I remember, is when you point to that gold, everybody wanted to be the champion. And it's really, sometimes it's hard when you're young. You know, you get caught up in it, you get caught up in your character, and you just want to win all the time. And that was probably the hardest thing. Not every kid had that problem, but some of the kids did.
Yeah.
You know, they couldn't see the bigger picture of just telling a story in the ring.
A lot of people don't understand that title belt is it's a big thing in all our lives. When we came to the school, Dusty looked at us and he goes, "Why are you here?" And you'd hear all these guys be like, "'Cause I want to train. I love the business." And you'd be like, "I'm sick and tired of people saying they're here because they love the business." He looked at me and he goes, "Why are you here?" And I said, "To be world champion, Dream." He goes, "That's it right there." He said, "That's why we're all here." I remember being 6 years old and seeing Ric Flair walk out on TV for the first time, and he was wearing the NWA World Heavyweight title. And I remember being a little guy, I saw that, and I said, that,
Punches him in the back.
I want to do that.
That really hurt.
I want to be him.
Brings him back up,
Yeah.
And it was
and he's got a headlock
him
on him.
stopping and holding his arms out and seeing the 10 pounds of gold. You know what I'm saying? The mystique.
Yep.
He's down on the mat,
That is the thing that drove us.
rising up slowly.
And when I
Yeah.
was young, we were making belts out of cardboard and tinfoil.
And
Oh
he
yeah,
gets up.
we did the same.
Oh, and he
Before we had acceptable looking belts, our belts were cardboard and tinfoil.
Yeah.
Eventually, Steve Engstrom comes in. He made us some pretty decent belts, but before that, that's what they were. But that's what we had. That's what we. It was just, you know, it was a symbol to show that you had a belt.
Oh, no,
But you know, it's funny you mentioned that with how you had those ambitions, and we had the same thing up in Minnesota. Only it was AWA, and
Right.
for me, it was Hulk Hogan, not the WWF Hogan, but the AWA Hogan.
Yeah, Dick Bockwinkel times, huh?
Nick Bockwinkel times, yeah. I mean, I was there at Super Sunday, and you know, it's events like that just you know, I can remember every time I went to the Civic Center to watch that. I'm like, one of these days I'm going to be in that ring. One of these days,
Absolutely.
you know, you have that just that drive, and of course, running the show back then, this was my life. I mean, like I said last week, this came before school even for me. And just my mom
Hell
hated
yeah.
it. But you know, it was all about the league for me back then, and running this thing, especially when we started doing these live events.
And I mean, Hammer, you know, I don't know if you could see, but when they do the wide angle shot, you know, it's not exactly a small crowd there.
No, I am really impressed at the level of production, how many people you got to attend, and you don't get something like this to happen unless you got everybody on deck. And you guys had dudes that were willing to go the distance to get the production over. Because the bottom line is if we're not all in this together, we all look like shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you guys, I'm just watching. I'm watching rest holds. I'm watching hope spots. I'm watching everything that wrestling is made of. And I mean, I'm sitting here jealous that I couldn't have been a part of that when I was young.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, Mike, it was an open door. One of the reasons I started this was because I was confused why there wasn't something already. You know, you had Little League football, Little League baseball, Little League everything, but not a Little League professional wrestling.
Yeah.
You had the amateur wrestling, but that wasn't of interest. You know, I wanted to be in a ring. So when I started this thing, I made a commitment that I'm going to keep it an open door for any other kid that fits the age limit to come into our show.
That's awesome, man, that you did that. And you really wanted to do that. And I got to ask you a question here. What are you guys wrestling on?
Well, this isn't, we had to build this ring. So this was just basically a plywood platform ring. There's no give.
My God, I'm sitting here like,
Yep.
I'm not seeing any give whatsoever.
It's
You guys
basically plywood.
You guys are really going in, man.
Now, a
Is
month later, we actually got a professional ring. We had, it just so happened from the news of this event that
I don't know what that ring is.
Hutchinson-
I'm sorry if that's coming through. I can't stop it.
No, I don't even hear it. But
Okay, good deal.
But no, we ended up getting a professional ring a month later, an actual real ring, and that was a night and day difference to this one.
Oh yeah. I come to think of it, we had our own started, and it was called the RWF, and it was the Renegade Wrestling Federation, and we had a ring that was one that we built out of plywood and stuff, but we had one that had to give and to sway. And in the center of it, what trademarked us was we had a spool table, like the spools that you'd see the cable company carrying.
Yep.
And it was coated in a padding, and it had RWF in the center of it. So you had the wrestling ring, and in the center was this raised spool that people would take bumps on. And we just wanted to be different, you know. TNA, we saw the thing that TNA was coming out with, and we were all sitting there like, hey man, we need to create something on the side. I'm down here at NWA talking to Bill Barrett, trying to get him to go with the hey man, you ever thought about having a raised platform in the center of the ring? He wasn't hearing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not. You're talking about Mr. Tradition. He wasn't hearing it. I'm loving the style of what I'm seeing on the interview.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, we should have did more interviews. Now, interesting, in this interview at the end,
This
you're going
is
to see a big
great.
guy walk by right there, Jim Mitchell, the Iron Duke. He actually showed up, professional wrestler. He was working with Vern prior to this in the AWA, and he showed up just out of curiosity. He became another independent promoter in the Twin Cities a few years later.
Right.
But he actually showed up at our first event there. You see him on camera there.
Now, Mike, this ring that they're showing right now, that's the first ring I ever wrestled in.
Yeah, that was the infamous Fred Moore ring. That was basically on concrete. That was a boxing ring.
That's awesome. I've seen some of the stuff that you showed before, and it is really absolutely amazing, man. Like I said, to see this, I'm so sorry that I wasn't a part of something this on. You guys, it's like you guys really did have the biggest hearts for this business.
I'll tell you. I mean, you know, you understand. I mean, it was just in our blood, you know, and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
Gentlemen,
like you and I talked about. It's like you and I have talked about, Mike. There's still days that I get that urge to want to get in the ring.
every day.
But then those aches and pains creep in, and it's like, no way.
Every day the urge hits us, you know, and you see guys that go and they come back and go and come back. Let me tell you something. Unless you were severely hurt and I took a severe injury, you want to go back to that ring no matter what.
oh
It's
yeah,
life. It's life. It's part of what powers us, and it makes us 100% feel accomplished. I can speak to that because I'm sitting in a room with two professional wrestlers. There's nothing in the world like going out and putting on this production. There's nothing like making that show and hearing those people pop.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing like it.
And that's one of
And,
the things. That's one of the things I miss the most is the crowd. You know,
Yeah.
hearing
Yeah.
that crowd again.
You
I'm
know,
grateful that I'm grateful I got to be a part of what I was a part of. It was a blessing to be and work with the men that I got to work with. You know, I've got a lot of gratitude for Ray Lloyd. He showed me the whole world in Atlanta. He really did. He opened up every door that he could for me, and it helped me out immensely. I love this sport, but most of all, I'm telling you what, man, you guys got me addicted to this. I'm going to be a fan from now on. I'll be watching everything that you post about your organization, because this, to me, if somebody said, where are the roots of professional wrestling, I'm directing them here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
you know,
cool.
I mean, we may not have been the most polished.
Say that again?
We might not have been the most polished in the business, but it's about the
Let me tell you
heart.
something, man. You guys' heart and the love for what you do speaks louder than anything. And you know what? I'm not sitting here worried about who's pulling it off smoothest or who's doing what. I am getting the story, and the story's being told.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool to hear it that way, Mike. Very well put, actually. I can't say, you know, Dave, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it as crystal clear as Mike has. But he's right. I've been trying to say that myself, and I've never gotten the words to come out as good as you've said it, Mike.
Well, that's from the heart. When I said what I said, I'm sitting here and I'm watching everything that's going on, and the story is being told. I'm not worried about how Crispy's hitting the ropes. I'm worried
Right.
about he's telling me the story right now.
Yep. Interesting
Working
thing.
the same part of the body. This kid is on.
Interesting
Boom!
thing.
Look at that drop kick.
Interesting thing on this match, though, that bigger kid in there that's playing the Sheik, he was a last-minute fill-in because for some reason, Bernie Prescott was supposed to be in there with Tough Tony, and he didn't make it to the event, so we had to throw the Sheik in as a last-minute thing. So, but that's what happens in wrestling, right? You know, you have somebody that doesn't show up, you gotta make it work.
Absolutely.
You know, you gotta make a substitution, and that's what we had to do here. So this Iranian Sheik wasn't ready. He was supposed to just be managing tonight. but we threw him in the ring.
You know, it's like they say at the bottom of every program: cards subject to change.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've had to explain that to people several times about cards subject to change. That's the biggest. What do I look for? That's the saving grace to every booker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I have had a blast. I've got to go because I'm actually having problems hearing both of you, and it's on my end. It's not yours.
Yeah.
I definitely am going to come back, and David will fill me in on
All right.
the next time we're going to do this. I would love to get in, and anytime you guys want to talk about the business, the ins and outs, what have you,
Sure.
I would love to be a part of it with both of you.
Yeah, we'll get you booked as
Yeah.
one of our special guests one of these shows where we can have you on for the whole show.
And
All
when
right,
we book
you
you,
guys,
Great.
thank you
when we
so
book
much.
you, we'll also promote your figures.
Yep.
What's
We didn't
that?
even talk about that, but we'll talk about your figure making business as well.
Oh, well, you know what? That can be definitely brought up. I'm looking into some new methods, so I would like to be able to give everybody a 100 product, and we're going to talk about making your figure.
Sounds awesome.
All right, gentlemen, you have a blessed night. Dave, I love you.
Love
You
you too,
guys are the
brother. We'll
bomb.
talk to you
Thanks
later.
for having me.
Thanks
And
for
just
joining
remember,
us.
man, it's about the story. It's
Thanks
all
for
about the
Exactly.
story being told.
Racer X, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks a lot for joining us, Mike.
Thank you for having me. God love everybody.
Have a good one.
Hi, what a nice guy.
Oh yeah.
That was
Nice.
a great conversation.
Now you see why I've been pushing to bring him in.
Well, I wanted to have him on for a whole show, you know, like I talked to you about
Yep.
before, you know, where we could really dedicate, because the figure making business is a big, you know, that's of interest to a lot of people. So I think that would be cool to hear about that as well.
Right.
Remember, folks, you can join us just like Mike did. Feel free to pick that link I've been posting. In fact, I'll post it again. I haven't posted it here in a while. So that link that I just posted in YouTube, and I'm going to do it in Facebook as well, that's the link you use to come on the show. And just like Mike, you can join us as well. And yeah, we're celebrating the Anoka Armory Superstar Spectacular 86, the first event we did at the Armory. 350 fans here tonight for this one, back on May 9th, 1986. Including one Dixie Dave in attendance this evening.
Well, prior to being Dixie Dave, though.
Yeah, prior to Dixie Dave, and I asked Dave, I said, you know, Dave, when you came to this first event, privately I'd asked you a while ago, I said, what were you thinking? And Dave goes, what was going through my mind primarily was, how do I get involved into this? As would be going through my mind if it was the other way around. I mean,
Yep.
that's for sure. I had a great guest with Mike, though. I was really great talking with him.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, he's a great guy. I mean, he does when he's feeling up to it, he does morning motivation on Facebook every day.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, coming on to the show here is very easy. Just pick that link and join us as a guest. Not just the fans and former wrestlers and stuff like Mike, but former alumni of the NWF, whether you were a guest already or you're going to be a guest in the future, or you don't want to be a guest in the future, but you don't mind coming on and saying hello. Join us in. And
you know,
just say
Terry
hi.
Russell, who I've seen in the crowd. You know, I've seen Tom Huben in the crowd.
Yeah. I'm thinking Steve Engstrom's out there watching. He could always pop in too.
Oh yeah.
Jeff Dinsmore. We have a lot of past guests that I'm sure might be tuning in, and yeah, this Iranian Sheik, Dave, he wasn't ready to be in the ring yet. He's really it's hard for the Super Ds to work with him. You can see they're struggling.
Yep.
When they get Tony in the ring, they've worked with Tony before, the littler Russian over there, so they can work pretty good, the Super Ds and him, because they've worked a number of times. But it was tough for the Sheik. he just wasn't ready to be in the ring yet. But it was we had to do something for this match.
Yep.
So that's why we did what we did. And so yeah, but you know something, having the tough Tony and the Sheik win the belts when this guy's obviously not a lightweight in our league, it just added to the chemistry of the controversy.
Right.
You can hear the fans booing. At this point, they realize, okay, we're going to boo for the bad guys and cheer for the good guys, because they they cheered the Tokyo Terror, and Peter didn't want that.
As I remember, Peter was such a nice guy. I mean,
oh yeah, he'd give you the shirt off his back if he knew you needed it.
yep.
He was that kind of guy. Anything but the character he played. So now it looks like we got Rock and Ronabomb coming up, and the Ice Dragon, the Eliminators tag team. They're going to go up against the Ring Warriors, a team that returning from 1985. They came back for the Armory card. And as Chad commented, Dave, remember when we had him on as a guest? He said this was the hardest match he ever had, was this Anoka Armory card.
Yep.
Because the Ring Warriors, a lot like the Barbarians, a lot like Tim Holland, rough and tumble in that ring. They were stiff and they were rough.
Yep.
And you'll see that in this match coming up. Racer X still there with us, storytelling it at its finest. You know, he made some very interesting comments, and one of the things I liked that he said was that he's not looking at the technical side of things like I do.
Right.
And I just do because it's my second nature as being a former promoter and everything, right? But he's looking at as, you know, he's looking at the bigger, broader picture. And that's something that, it's good to hear that, you know. I have to remind myself of that a lot.
Yep. And you know, Racer X, you were talking about showing this to Ray. You should also show it to Chris. I won't say which Chris on camera, but I think you know which one I'm talking about.
So this is still, Ice Dragon's still a baby face here. He will go on to become one of our best heels in the league. It was shortly after this card. Yep. So Chuck Roberts, the late Chuck Roberts, passed away about 20 years ago. And then his partner Todd the Bod Chester, the Ring Warriors.
Yep.
They were our original kind of Road Warrior style team. And
right down to the music.
Yep. But they were both, these two were actually tough kids. You know, we talk about how some, like Tim Holland's a tough one, and so were these two. And so their tough style comes out in this match. They don't, just like the Road Warriors, they don't give an inch here too much to Ronabomb, and everything that Chad and Chris got out of this match, they worked for it.
Yep. Well, that's the way it was with teams like this. It's the way it was when you worked with Tim. You know, you had to work for what you got.
Yep. Now, remember how we talked about we get donated tickets to that facility in Coon Rapids, that group home? That's that whole section right there in the front row that we can see right there. That's camera side.
Okay.
That's basically that group right there. Every Armory event we did, we gave them free tickets to come. It was one of those group homes for people that, you know, are mentally challenged. Yeah, special needs, and they loved it. They watched the show every week on cable. They were huge. They were legitimate fans. you know, of what we were doing at the time.
Yep.
So it really felt good to give them tickets and have them, and, you know, let them come to the show. Yeah, Chad, he takes a beating in this one, Dave. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, a lot of wrestlers who make it to the big leagues, you know, they're about the money. Basically, with our league, the money that we earned at this show went to improve the show.
Yeah, it went to either future events or nobody made a dime on our show. We were actually a registered nonprofit organization. So all the money we made would either went to buy that ring that we got. We bought that professional wrestling ring that we got after this event. It went for future Armory shows, whatever. Went back into the league.
Yep.
It was the love. It was truly, Mike said it best. It was the love of wrestling is why we were here.
Yep.
And trying our best to do it as good as we could for whatever ability level we were at. Some people were at different levels. We talked about that.
Yep. I mean, you know, Ice Dragon's a good wrestler, but you can see how hard he got whipped there.
Yeah,
I mean,
and when he gets offensive here, he's working for it. They're not helping him for his offensive moves. That's one thing that Chuck and Todd kind of failed to see is the art of wrestling here. They're just looking at, we got to win.
Yep, we got to be the big shot.
Yep, and I don't blame them. I mean, they're excited. They're in front of all these people. I'm not going to hold it against them, but I mean, you know what it was like when you went in your first event at the Armory. I mean, It was exciting. You're in front of all those people, and that adrenaline rush kicks in, and you know, Terry Costner, when we're talking about him, you know, his only time he wrestled with us was at Anoka Armory events. You know, he was there at the October card and the August card, and he knows he was at the big sellout, you know, in October.
I mean, there's nothing like being back in the dressing room. You're nervous about how the crowd's going to react to you. And you come out and you get your reaction. All that nervousness just kind of washes away.
Yeah.
And your personality kicks in.
You know, I'll tell you something that. So, what I did, because we had to have some way of knowing what was going on out there. So I wired from our stationary camera. I wired into the dressing room a live shot of the camera, so we could see whatever this camera was seeing. We could see in the dressing room.
Yeah.
Small little TV in there, and so we're all huddled around this TV during all these matches as wrestlers back there watching. You know, to see, because you wanted to see how these matches were going before your match, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you something. And the reason I did that is because I knew if I didn't do that, I'd have every single kid peeking out the door trying to get a glimpse. So I figured I'm going to have a TV in here so we prevent that from happening.
Yeah, we didn't want standing room only at the gorilla position.
No. But,
the Illuminators, Rockin' Runabomb comes in. He's got a nice arm bar on.
CJ Pregler's the commentator. That was my stepbrother. The only time he ever really showed up for us was at these big Armory cards because he was in Richfield, so it was just hard for him to get there.
Yo.
Yeah, this is... Now see, he didn't quite do that suplex right, Todd. You got to remember, though, Todd and Chuck came back to us from 1985. They weren't there for everything that we were, you know, that we were dealing with. So, like, they weren't quite as developed as... They were still 85 style. So... And there we go.
The Ring Warriors win.
The Ring Warriors. So it looks like we have another guest, Dave. Queued in.
Alrighty. Alrighty, it's one of our regulars.
Yeah, Mr. Tom Hubin.
Good to see your face, Tom. You know, we've seen your text a
How
lot.
are you guys doing?
Good to see you face to face.
Good. Can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yep. I think we got a
Yeah,
little bit of a delay, maybe. But yeah, what do you do for that delay, Dave? There's a way to fix that.
Hey, Tom, try popping out and coming back in.
Yeah, that'll usually fix it.
I'm sick of that stuff. I hate hairspray in my eye. It hurts. I don't want to ever get. I want to wrestle him again.
Yep, I mean, this was our love.
So yeah, Tom, we need Tom. What Tom needs to do is you need to reconnect to the link again. So yeah, so come in and pick the link again, and hopefully that'll fix that delay. That's usually, I think that's what people do, right, Dave, on stream?
Yep.
Yeah. When you got that weird delay going on.
Because it was like a 5 or 10 second delay.
Yeah, and I've seen that before. So what you do, I think you just come in again, and hopefully it fixes itself.
Yep.
Tom Hubin is one of our regulars too, so I'd really like to talk to him.
Another comment from Racer X.
Sounds good, Racer X. It was great seeing you tonight, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we enjoyed having you on, Racer X.
Okay, looks like we got Tom again. Let's try it again. All right, Tom,
Yep.
Can you hear us?
Okay, you sure? How does this sound?
Yep, you sound good.
Now, this match right here would have an effect on my feet.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. So, Tom, what do you think of the?
Yeah.
Tell me, what do you think of the NWF so far? All the shows you've watched.
It's kind of interesting because I grew up in the 1980s.
You know,
it's really interesting because I grew up in the 1980s. Most people had in AWA wrestling.
Takes out his partner.
Yep, as did we.
And you know, you just back in the 80s, there wasn't a lot of TV.
Hungry to get this title.
Yep, and I mean, where we were located, we were just outside of Minneapolis, which was AWA territory.
Yep. And the AWA that we watched was, you know, 80s, the 80s stuff.
Yep.
I don't have too much memories of the 70s AWA. I became more of a fan in 80, I think around 80 or 81.
Oh, 2 count by Slick Steenerson. Oh, throws him into the post.
So the Fly just took the place. Remember how we told you, we mentioned about the Chris Irick, and we had to boot him from the show? Well,
yep.
It happened right before this event, so that's why the Fly's in there as Steenerson's partner to replace Chris Irick. The Fly is, of course, Jay Downs is Chris Downs' brother, the Ice Dragon's brother.
Yep.
Takes out to Slick Steenerson.
And Terry Block, the workhorse in there.
It's a clothesline. Takes off to the other invader.
So,
He back up, and he throws him.
but yeah, it was. So I mean, the AWA
Yeah,
like Tom.
Terry Black was like one of your major performers.
Get the 2 count as the Fly
Yeah, he really did. He was pretty good. But you mentioned how it was AWA that you watched it in Wisconsin, and that's what we watched. So a lot of my influence was from the AWA. Even though I was a Hogan guy, when Hogan went to the WWF, it just lost some of its luster. I was still an AWA at heart. That was my first league that I watched, and so everything I tried to do in our league was based off the AWA.
Oh, the flying trouble. Oh, and he kicks him.
Yep, I mean, if you look at our titles, they're AWA inspired.
The Invader.
Yep, they really are. Terry Black, very innovative. Look at this. A leg drop off the second rope. Nobody was doing anything like that. And Terry pulled one off right there, a move that none of us were doing.
Exactly.
And here comes the Invader.
Now, even though I knew Terry and Chad away from the ring, I can still never remember which one's which. Which is Invader 1 and which is Invader 2.
Well, Invader 1 was always Terry. It was his idea. Right?
Yep.
But yeah, they had the red. They always dressed in red. Usually. I mean, Terry got away from that a little bit after halfway through the year. But in the beginning, it was always this red shirt look, red pants or red shorts.
Trying to get him up for his suplex, but he cannot do it. Oh! And they scramble outside the ring. Kelsey making sure his men does not get hurt.
By the way, Dave, remember I had that trivia question I put on Facebook?
Who was the guys within the NWF that
What's he gonna get him up for?
didn't like the characters that they were almost had to become?
You mean they didn't like the characters that they were told they were going to be?
Right.
Well, Peter, the Tokyo Terror, when we told him about being the Tokyo Terror, he was Vietnamese. So the first thing out of his mouth was, "I'm not Japanese." I explained to him, I said, "Peter, I understand that, but the Vietnam War is a mess and we're not going to go down that road." I said, "It's just... people relate to Japan, and I had to kind of, I guess for him, I had to talk him into it, but it didn't take much. He was the only one that questioned his character that I can remember. I don't know, Dave. I'm trying to think. Was there anybody else that had a problem?
Well, I know, speaking of which, I know the Barbarians wanted to change your name a couple times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they wanted to get out of the... Tim Holland didn't want to be Thandar anymore. And so they wanted to get out of that Barbarian gimmick after a while. Speaking of the Barbarians, looks like they're up next here with the Mr. X, Mr. X2, and the Barbarians. You know what's funny about this match is the Barbarians were heels, Mr. X, Mr. X2 were the baby faces, and the crowd was reversed. They cheered the Barbarians and they booed the X's. And the Mr. X and Mr. X2 were supposed to win the belts back on this. But it didn't happen. So the finish never went the way it was supposed to be, as far as how it was planned.
Huh. I wonder how Tim talked Steve into that.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sure it's something they planned. They worked out amongst themselves, but this is a good match, though. Regardless of the finish not going the way it was supposed to. This was one of the better matches on the card. See the guys walking around selling hot dogs and things out of the baskets? Do you remember that, Dave? Remember the food vendors? Yeah.
Yep, I remember them.
That was the Blaine's Johnsville Lions Club that I had come in and do all the concessions.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Jerry Wellman and Tim Holland definitely looked the part for tonight. They got the face paint on and everything.
Yep. And Captain Crunch at ringside with them.
And consult each other.
Captain Crunch was actually Jerry's dad. He was their manager, Captain Crunch.
Yep.
It will be Mr. X2.
Jerry's dad, Tim's uncle.
Yep. You know, I had the Blaine's Johnville Lions Club come and do these concessions, and then I watched them make a ton of money. And I'm thinking, going forward, we're doing our own concessions. There's too much money there, and I thought that's another revenue stream that we can help pay for this armory. So that was kind of the last time I wanted them to be in. Not that they did a bad job, but I just seen the money that we could have made doing it ourselves.
Right.
I mean, how hard is it? You sell some popcorn, hot dogs, soda, candy bars. It's not difficult.
Right.
And then Mr. X2, this is the first time that Chad Rancor is playing Mr. X2.
Question two: did the Armory take any commissions on anything that you saw?
No, they didn't. They didn't get any. The only thing the Armory got was the rental fee for the Armory, which is about $350 for the day, for a half a day, and that's what we had to pay them. You know, but the Armory was only half paid for going into the event. We had to settle up at the end of the night. So again, I'm hoping going into this event, I'm just hoping we get enough people to pay for the Armory. That was my main concern, because if we didn't get X amount of people through the door and paid admission, then where do we come up with the other $150, $200, whatever it was I owed them? So,
Yep.
but we had enough come in and we were able to settle it. So we had just enough money left over to buy that professional wrestling ring that was offered to us a few weeks after this event. But yeah, Mr. X, Mr. X2 is supposed to be the baby faces, but they're actually turned into the heels in this one. Crowd just went for the Barbarians. Kind of like how the AWA went for the Road Warriors. Same scenario. You know, the Road Warriors are supposed to be heels too, and they were getting cheered.
Well,
Maybe
it's like Animal said in the documentary that for Dark Side of the Ring, no matter where they went, they never changed their style.
No.
Mr. Excellent.
If the fans want to cheer them, great.
A lot of people say the Road Warriors are stiff and they're rough and this and everything, and they were. But you know, part of it was how they were trained, Dave.
Yep.
Eddie Sharkey's style of training, and I can tell you firsthand because I was there, he doesn't really necessarily show you how to work a match. He just shows you holds and bumps and stuff like that. And you know, the match chemistry comes from just getting in the ring and doing it with
Right.
Eddie. Yeah, awkward slam there by Steve. You know, usually Steve's a little more crisp than that, right?
Yep.
Flying shoulder, that was one of their specialties. But both these guys, Jim and Terry, or Jerry, I should say, were good. They were good in the ring.
Oh, yeah.
He's got him up for a suplex. He's got him! Oh!
Of course, remember, folks, it's open mic night. Just like Tom, feel free to join us. And you can come on with us as well.
Yep.
You just post that link and you're in.
We welcome everybody, just like back in the day.
So,
That's cheating. And he kicks. Gives him a series of
what move do you discover the worst?
grabs him up.
What was it? I didn't catch all that. Did you, Dave?
Nope. What was the question, Tom?
Grabs him up. Throws him off the ropes. Takes to Mr. X2.
So, out of all the moves, what bump or what move hurt
I guess the referee did not count it.
the worst?
And now he starts working on him. Off the rope.
Oh,
Oh, stomach.
suplexes. Only because the timing has to be right, and if the timing's wrong on a suplex, it hurts if you don't land right. So suplexes were always rough. Getting slammed off the top rope, which I did eventually in '87, that one was always rough. Yeah, the shock to your body when you hit the ring, you know.
Yeah.
For me, that would be the suplex was always a rough one. When you're getting suplexed. So giving the suplex is a piece of cake.
Yeah.
But taking it.
Yeah, I mean, any bump, if you don't land just right, it hurts.
Any bump in Fred Moore hurt. Because that was not even a wrestling ring. And this wasn't either. This is a hard, plywood platform. In fact, we break this thing. In this match, they end up breaking the ring. It's the point where we just couldn't risk doing a battle royal. Right? I think that was it right there. That move right there. You can see it's kind of like bouncing now. We broke supports on that move right there. And so that kind of canceled our battle royal we were going to have.
Oh.
He kicks him.
Yep. Now I could just picture Sean in the background saying, "Everybody avoid that corner."
I did. I actually did say that. So remember, guys, the right corner closest to the dressing room. Don't do any bumps there. You know, it's funny. You nailed it, Dave. I did. I remember saying that now. I think we tried to prop it up, in between the match or whatever to fix it a little bit, but it was definitely a problem.
In the middle of the ring. The Barbarians have Mr. X out of himself.
Now, if I'm correct, Sean, I think I was sitting over in the corner where the Barbarians.
No, you were opposite. You were in the corner right by this ring post closest. You were right there. Yeah, right there. You can see yourself right there.
Yep.
That's Dixie Dave right there in the crowd there in the.
The very next day would be my first match.
I don't know what he is doing. He is not.
So technically, yesterday is the 37th anniversary of my first match.
Yeah, you joined the following day, if I remember. Fred Moore taping. But I talk about dumb timing. We do this Armory event on May 9th, and May 10th, we had a Fred Moore taping to do the very next morning. After everybody went through this rough and tumble matches at the Armory, less than 12 hours later, we got to do it again in that Fred Moore ring.
Yep.
Well, Mr. X.
And I was even concerned there would be people showing up for the show because I thought maybe they'd be so wore out they wouldn't show up. Shit, everybody was there that following morning. It was a full house at Fred Moore.
Everybody that was on the show was there, and then some.
See, I think X was supposed to get the pin right there. And that, you see X's shoulder up? That was not supposed to happen. See, I think it was just a mistake, Dave. It was just a mistake.
Yep.
No, I mean, it wasn't intentional.
Wait, who is the referee for this one?
I think it's Louis Hildegard. He was just, I think he was friends with Todd and Chuck, the Ring Warriors, and so he volunteered to referee for us on some of these matches.
And obviously not cued into the finish.
No. Nope.
Well, that's the business for you. You're not part of the Brotherhood. You don't get it.
Well, this is
information.
Remember, Dave, this was the last event. I mean, this first event was us kids reffing. Every Armory event
Yep.
after this, I used adults as refs.
Let's get the official division.
I just wanted a little bit of professionalism, and I have an adult refs. So all the future Armory cards and everything, they all had adult referees.
The winners of that match were the NWF World Tag Team Champions,
You know, in case Crusher didn't mention it, you know, we have the shirts supporting this event.
Oh yeah, the Superstar Spectacular '86 shirts. God, I wish we could have done shirts like this back in the day, Dave, for these Armory cards. It would have cost a fortune back then to make shirts like this, though. It's funny how things have come down in price.
Yep. I think I remember the finish to this match.
Yeah, Team USA against the Russian Destroyers coming up.
Yep.
Yeah, 6-man tag.
Yep, I believe that we see a return of a couple people that were just in the ring after the finish of the match.
You know, Jason, the ring announcer, he was supposed to do
The
Rattlesnake Jake.
AWA was very influential on how you performed each card.
Oh yeah. Yeah, AWA was my favorite league for most of what I watched in the 80s. Even when the AWA was on its tailspin in the late 80s and in the early 90s, I was still a diehard fan for AWA.
Yep. Now you were
So
saying about Jason Clausen.
Oh, Jason Klassen, he was supposed to do Rattlesnake Jake, and he told me basically the night of the event, I can't do Jake. I said, why can't you do Jake? I was river rafting and I screwed up my back. I said, Jason, are you serious? Well, I didn't know it, but his mom was not having it. She did not want him wrestling, but Jason just didn't have the heart to tell me that. So his mom put her foot down, didn't want him in there. So that's why Jason couldn't do Rattlesnake Jake. There comes the Russian Destroyers. That would be Steve and Jim Owens played the Russian Destroyers along with Bulldog the Butcher, who's Troy Otto. And they see they got the manager, the Iranian Sheik, there with them as their manager. And you know, and the Sheik is just a gimmick to get the crowd going. You know, that's just like every Sheik in every organization does, right?
Yep, exactly.
Now, one of the things we did that wasn't a very smart. See how we got the American flag in the ring post?
Yep.
That's fine, but eventually that flag falls and hits the ground, and that's not cool. And we had some lady come up and say, just so you know, this flag should never hit the ground. And she was absolutely right. So as kids, we need to be, you know, we should have been a little more respectful for the flag, you know?
Exactly. Hey, Crusher, I do have to step away for just a second.
All right, sounds good.
I will be.
Then he takes him up
And just to remind everybody, you can join us
and move.
on the show if you like. You just pick that link.
And he's right after the Butcher. He really wants him.
Thing is, we get
Butcher in trouble.
Tom, you're one of the few that join us live all the time. We mainly get most of our views in replay. It's just the way it is. We get hundreds of views in replay, but it's hard to get people to come live.
Yeah.
Oh. And Kid Kelsey has him off the ropes. Oh, knee lift. Butcher.
So I mentioned earlier that this Battle Royal that we were going to do got canceled. What we ended up doing instead of a Battle Royal is we do a bunkhouse match between the Sheik and the Butcher. as a special. We had to do something since we couldn't do a battle royal. We were bummed. We were so bummed though. We wanted to do the battle royal. We ended up doing a battle royal on the next armory card.
Sergeant Smash throws him into the turnbuckle. Kate Kelsey holds him in there, touches him. Kept in there.
Yeah, these first armory cards, this one and the July one, we only have a single camera. We eventually get the multi-camera shots and all the other armory cards after. So they look better in that respect because there's like 2 or 3 cameras getting it.
Exactly.
Takes out to Markov. And Smash and Markov going at it. Oh! Markov, Kelsey coming in.
And just to remind the fans, next week you will not have to put up with Dixie Dave. We're going to have a special guest on with Pressure Crossing.
Kick.
Yep, I'm looking forward to Jamie McParland joining me again next week to fill in for Dave. And
I've got some family stuff going on next week, so
Oh, and he smashed over
Yep.
the head.
Shit.
He's got him up for a body slam.
one of the few times the wrestler's putting family before the ring.
Canvas.
well, under the circumstances, you know, I don't blame you.
Gushman. Kelly gets a right count.
And I'll explain more once we're off air.
Kick out to Kelsey.
You know,
Kelsey, man.
God, we're just, you know, and even though this match isn't the best thing technically, the fans are still into it. You can hear them. You know, they're just into the
fans
match.
are into it, and like Mike was saying, they're telling the story.
Yeah. You know, it was just interesting to hear Mike say that because I can see I know what he meant by that, and
And he's got a headlock on.
you don't know how refreshing it is to hear that from somebody that's not part of what we did.
Oh, bulldog bug.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's got him. Oh.
I mean, you know, we can say it all we want ourselves, but it's just us talking. But to hear a third party like say something, that kind of thing is kind of cool. Yeah, Kelsey was big on the claw. He called it the Kelsey claw. You know how everybody had a claw, the Von Erich claw, and so Kelsey was the Kelsey claw. See, now look at, there's that American flag that just hit the ground. Not good.
No.
And look at the Sheik threw it down again. And we had somebody, in fact, you'll see somebody come and pick that flag up. Some fan will. Rightfully so.
4 minutes left in this match. Kelsey with the bulldog. Coming up. Oh, but he got pushed up by Butcher. Look at
I was
this.
going to say, did we lose Tom?
I don't know. He was straight. It looks like he's back.
Kelsey in trouble. Oh, and he ran.
But you know, I mean, some people have asked me, "Oh, why do you want to show this stuff?" And to me, it's showing our past, showing what our passion was.
Markov in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, exposing people to a more innocent age of wrestling.
And the ref can't
And
see
something that
Kelsey.
a lot of people didn't even know existed, and
Exactly.
was around before the whole backyard wrestling craze.
Kelsey out of it.
Right.
Which honestly, Dave, the backyard wrestling craze, the stuff from the 90s, that kind of backyard stuff,
Kelsey takes out to Rough Ryan.
that really hurt our reputation.
Bulldog the Butcher.
Yeah.
Because people then tend to compare us to that sometimes too.
Falls in with the
And I mean,
looks
yes, we did hold a couple shows in your backyard.
I'm gonna thank Tom for joining us. Looks like we lost him.
Yep.
But it's great to have Tom come in, put a
Exactly.
face to the name now. We know who we're talking to when he joins us every week. It's cool.
So that got Kelsey mad. Suplex.
Remember, anybody can join us live. That link that we've been posting, you just pick that link and you come on in and you're in with us as well.
Oh, two
Yep. I mean,
Butcher gets on him.
I've seen a few alumni come through.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have you on.
They're on Sergeant Smash. Oh, Butcher and Kelsey going at it now. And they're fighting Will.
So there's that flag getting manhandled again on the other side of the ring. I remember a lady comes and picks up that flag, and you actually see her, and I think she hands it to Jason.
Sheik being chased by Sergeant Smash. Oh, but he's caught by the Markovs. Sheik chasing around. And now he
you know, we were just using the flag as a prop, right?
Yep.
And we didn't know. I mean, we're not,
The Russians and the Sheik.
We're young.
we were young.
Some
and
of us are preteens.
Yep, and it's just, I don't like seeing that today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Oops. Well, let's go up. We'll try to go up for the ring announcer.
See, there's that lady. See her wrapping the flag up? And
Yep.
then she gives Jason an earful about that flag hitting the ground. And rightfully so. I remember Jason telling me about that.
You know, now knowing what we know, especially with where we were at, you know, that's something that should not have happened.
The Markov's beating up on Bodie
Yeah.
the Butcher.
Yep. This is what I thought.
Yeah, this is why we did the bunkhouse match with the Butcher and the Sheik, because they turn on the Butcher. So we figured this would be
Yep.
a fitting bunkhouse
Sending an
match.
autograph over there. Bodog the Butcher, I don't
You know,
know
as a
what this
bonus
is,
match.
but everyone beating up on Bodog the Butcher. Rough Ryan.
Oh, and they keep throwing Bulldog back in.
Trophy.
Yeah.
Team USA.
I was going to say, didn't the Barbarians eventually come out and make the save?
I don't know who came. I don't think anybody did. Butcher just ran out of there. You know.
I see.
So I don't know if anybody made the save.
Uh-oh. Now we have the infamous match.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like Tom's back again. We'll bring him in.
Yep.
There we are. Are you there, Tom?
Our feature match of the night. This match will be
I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
introducing first the challenger.
Tom, you're from Texas now,
Yeah,
right?
I
You're
grew
in
up in Green Bay,
Texas?
Wisconsin. What got me hooked on wrestling? Yeah, I live in Texas right now. It was like 88 degrees today.
Yeah, it's about 75 here in Salt Lake City.
That's pretty nice for Salt Lake City.
Yeah. You grew up in Wisconsin?
Yeah, I grew up in Green Bay, and we had a lot of AWA cards go through like the Brown County Arena, probably like once every month or every other month. So we went to a lot of them because they're super cheap.
I'm trying to think of the name of the promoter that promoted the Green Bay stuff. He promoted all the AWA stuff. He was the promoter for Green Bay. I used to know him by name. I can remember his name. I can't think of it now.
You know, Crusher, it was so warm here today. It's still 76 degrees.
Yeah. It's like a heat wave going around the whole country. Oh, Dave, I can't tell you how much I love that blue belt. That blue world title.
Yep.
Of course, the one we got now is so much better, but everybody used to ask me, why do you wear elbow pads? Because a lot of wrestlers don't. You know, they might have a knee pad or so, but you don't always see them with elbow pads. At least two of them. And I wore elbow pads because you would get mat burns on this ring all the time.
Yeah.
So it was just to protect from the mat burns.
Well, I remember once I finally got my gear, I had knee pads, I had elbow pads.
Yeah. So Steve's idea was to do a strap match. Now, I said he never came up with the straps, and I said, Steve, what are we gonna do for straps? I wanted to know. He's like, don't worry, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. So the night of the event, he comes up with these little tiny leather strips that were like a whipping willow branch. And you get whipped with these straps, it was just like a, oh man, I can't tell you how much it hurt. I wished he would have had the big fat leather straps. That would have been better. But these little tiny strips,
You know, he's not going by the basic philosophy in wrestling. The more you spread the pain out over a wider mass, it'll hurt less.
right. It's like that WWE pay-per-view the other day. They're hitting each other with those kendo sticks or whatever, right? What do you call those things? I've been hit by those. They don't hurt. I don't even know why they use those things. That's for practicing and sparring. They're meant not to hurt. So I don't know what they're using. Like the people are getting hit with it. They're like, oh wow, like it hurts. They don't even. Those things do not hurt. It's like getting hit with when we used to use the metal sheet pan in the Group W days. It just doesn't hurt. But these straps, these hurt. I remember the next day, Steve and I had these red lines all over our backs and shoulders from this strap match. Welt marks, you know. You didn't feel it in the match. Your adrenaline's going too much.
Oh, exactly.
Look
That's
at
the thing that
Jason talking to Pretty Boy. Pretty Boy goes into character. What was that, Dave?
I lost my train of thought of what I was going to say. But
I was talking about the straps and how we didn't feel it in the time in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize adrenaline is an amazing drug.
Oh yeah.
I mean, my mom used to always ask me, you know, you act like you don't feel anything when you're in the ring. But the next day, you're walking around like an 80-year-old man.
Well, yeah. In Brooklyn Park, when I broke my finger with Steve and I power slammed him, I got my hand jammed behind him.
Yep.
I kept going in the match. You know, it's like you can't stop for anything. But man, did that finger hurt the next day. And when you break your finger, there's not a lot they can do for it. They gave me a splint.
Right.
I had to have it in a splint, and that's all they can really do. So, yeah.
You know, that's one thing that I do have to say about wrestlers nowadays versus back. In the era when we were wrestling, wrestlers nowadays are wimps compared to what we went through. I mean, I've literally seen a wrestler call off a match because he dislocated a finger in a match.
No. Yeah, no, we keep going with it. I mean, I don't remember any match stopping due to injury, except for when Peter got pile drived.
Yep.
That pile driver to Tokyo Terror and Fred Moore. We stopped. But and justifiably so.
Exactly. We had to make sure he was okay.
Yeah. All I know, Dave, is I was so excited. This was my dream for years, to be in front of a live crowd and to be in this match and doing this match, man. I was pumped up. You know, this was so exciting at the time.
Referee making sure he doesn't do that again. Now Taylor claims,
You know, I can see you after this match. came back in the locker room just cussing Steve out because of that strap.
No, I didn't. I really didn't. It worked. I just remember we both were saying, "Man, is your back hurt?" Like the next day at Fred Moore, I mean, Steve Humphrey's like, "How's your back feel?" I said, "It's freaking sore." And he's like, "Mine too." So it was more the next day that we reflected on it. The only thing I was getting on Steve this night was smoking. He kept lighting cigarettes up in the armory, and I'm like, Steve, this is a smoke-free facility. The janitor's gonna yell at us. You can't smoke in here, because Steve was a smoker.
Yep.
And he'd be walking around with a cigarette hanging in his mouth. I said, Steve, put the cigarette out before that janitor catches us again. He yelled at us once already, and so I was getting on him for the smoking thing. But
What is told that is? That hurts.
Did the armory require you to have like chaperones on site?
you mean chaperones, like adults and stuff? Like people watching us? The armory didn't require us to have any kind of chaperones or anything like that. In this event, I had people escort people to the ring just for have some sense of security, but that was about it. No, the armory pretty much let us do whatever we were going to do. They really didn't interfere with us much. The only time they were getting concerned, because they had this janitor guy that was at every armory show, and he was kind of in charge of the facility. And when we did our sellout card on the October 18th with 450 fans, and we started having standing room only, he kept reminding us of the capacity. This building can only have so many people in here. And that was the only time I remember him being, concerned about anything.
He's asking for mercy. No way. He kicks him.
We're still wrestling in socks, Dave. Me and Steve. I see that. We don't got boots or shoes or anything on yet.
Oh! Pretty boy Taylor.
Yep, that wouldn't be until a few months later.
A couple months later, we started getting the boots and everything.
He's at the top rope. Elbow.
So I remember
That's
like
another
in
reason
the
you wear
AWA,
elbow pads.
Kelsey informed
yeah,
me
you couldn't come off the top rope. So did you have like any rules or regulations and things like that?
Up goes Taylor.
No, in our league, we had it legal to go off the top rope. The only time I ran into that was when I wrestled, when me and Eddie Sharkey did our dual event, the PWA, when I did an event with him. Their league, you could only go off the second rope. They kind of adopted the AWA rules. I didn't know that, and so when I was having my match with Steve and Mr. X, I was going off the top rope left and right, and Bruce Kreitzman was their referee. He says, I wasn't sure what to do. I was almost going to ring the bell. So that was a problem there, but I just because I didn't know. But I kept going off the top rope in that match, and Bruce has told me afterwards, he's like, I wasn't sure what to do. I was almost going to ring the bell on you.
But that match was sanctioned under NWF rules, so.
Right. And that's kind of how we figured we'd roll with it. But yeah, that was Eddie's rule. And it worked out good, because when Troy and I did our match with PWA years later, they still had it where you couldn't go off the top rope. So we used that to the finish. I went off the top rope with the clothesline and then ended up getting disqualified for it.
Now, as I remember in Fridley, how did you go off the top rope?
Because I was small enough. Remember, those guys, most of those guys are big. I was still, 150 pounds, so I could make it work. Yeah, no, I basically could touch the ceiling when I was on the top rope, though. At the Georges.
And he's starting to whip on him.
Wow.
They're really going at it now. Oh, takedown with leg step over.
Well, as I remember at the co-event that you did with Eddie, were you using the ceiling as support when you stood up there?
Not in Champlin. No, they had enough height there. It was George's and Fridley, and the dry dock is another one where you could almost touch the ceiling.
Yeah.
Oh, grab the leg, taking him out.
I'm trying to remember here. This finish is kind of muddy, if I remember right,
Oh, pause. That has to hurt.
that we had in this match.
We're waiting for
So it was a no time limit, no disqualification strap match,
their straps.
and I think we end up getting a double count out is what we went with on this.
Oh, and he whips them back.
But some people question that because no disqualification, technically that shouldn't have counted
Right.
either.
Whipping
But
each other.
Right.
Oh, they're whipping each other like cats and dogs. Oh, he hit them with the chair.
love getting those chairs involved. Watch how Todd throws this chair out of the ring. He just tosses it. When he finally gets the chair away from me, he almost hit the fan.
The chair out. Oh, whips him on that back.
Oh, the memories of this night.
Well, like I said, it was just so exciting to be out there in front of all these people. And,
Oh, buddy, get
you know, remember, these people a lot of times say, well, Jesus, how did you get all these people here? Well, shit, we were on the air for years, every week. So people were watching, and we talked
Yeah,
about
but
this
it's
event
funny.
for 2-3 months, you know, leading up to it.
pressing.
By this point, you'd been doing the show 2 years.
Yep.
Throws him off the
So when the word gets out that we're going to have a live event, yeah, then people showed up. It was pretty cool that way. And you know they're fans of the show because watch when I leave the ring here and my match, when I start to head out to the dressing room, watch all the little kids come up for autographs. You know, you just know that they're fans, you know.
Oh, runs him into the turnbuckle. Punches him in the head.
Yeah, working with Steve though, Pretty Boy Taylor, working a match with him, it was
Oh, brings him out.
so easy.
Whips him.
It was almost a night off.
Yeah, it just was. It
For you
was,
at least.
yeah, for me. I mean, it was smooth. We just gelled, and but there was a trust factor. Remember we talked about that before, Dave. You have to
Yeah.
have trust. Like right now, he's gonna slam me outside the ring. You'd better trust what your opponent's doing when he slams you on concrete.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Yeah, there's the count out.
I think it was a count out.
yeah, double count out. That's what we went with.
Oh, and he's starting to beat up on the ref.
Steve being the vicious heel that he is.
He didn't win. Oh, he backed with the behind him and hits him.
And Crusher coming after him.
Yeah, and then we take the match onto the dressing room.
Oh, and he hits him. And they're fighting outside the ring. Oh.
Then Steve ends up taking me into the table right here.
With the chair.
But you hear it. You don't see it, but... Isn't that you, Dave?
I
think that was you.
There was no winner of this match. Double disqualification. Therefore,
Yeah, so it was a double DQ, despite what Todd Chester does here. Even though I took...
there is a winner. The title stays with
Chester says there's a winner, but nah. It was a double count out. That's what we went with officially.
Whoa. What a match. What a match.
But yeah, as I leave the ring here, you see all the kids coming up here for their autographs. And so
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you something. That was just to have little kids like this wanting your autograph. I can't even describe what that feels like. I mean, that was pretty cool stuff. And so, gosh, I would pay anything to go back in time and do that all over again. That was just too much fun.
This was a fun point in life.
Yeah. You know, the first Armory card is like, kind of like your first dance. The first public, kind of like your first dance. You know, it was just you remember that one. So this is the replacement for the Battle Royal, just a bunkhouse match. So all the wrestlers surround the ring, and the Sheik against the Butcher. That's the trouble. I'm watching Sergeant Smash and Brutus Markov. They're just staring down and going at it. Half the match takes place outside the ring with all these personalities around the ring.
Well, that's the way lumberjack matches go.
Yep. Well, we knew we couldn't do a battle royal with the ring broke, so we had to have something in place of it. Felt this would be the next best thing.
Drop kick to the small of the back.
I'll explain to you folks at home what the deal is. Once opponent is out of the ring, they will be pushed in by the men surrounding the ring.
Yep, that's how the bunkhouse works.
I see Tim, I see Jerry.
I see Dr. Destruction Chad Rancor over there, the late Dr. Destruction.
Oh, right next to Jerry. Who is that right there?
Right next to Jerry. You mean
Yeah.
next to Tim now?
Yep.
That's one of the Russian destroyers. Boris.
Oh, okay.
Boris Markov is his name.
Yep.
And I see Tough Tony next to him. There's Pretty Boy Taylor. Got the Super D's. Rough Ryan.
Super takedowns.
There's Sergeant Smash and myself.
And they push him back in. And
Isn't that Captain Crunch right next to you?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we were talking about the ring being broken in that corner.
Oh, out he goes.
Like they swarmed him to throw him back in.
Yep.
That's because that's what you're waiting for. You're waiting to be able to throw him back in. So.
Yep.
You know, I was looking at the program guide, Dave, and it says in the match lineup, it says 25-man battle royal. But when I count all the characters on this shirt, I don't know if we had 25 guys. We might have been short a few.
Yeah.
I think we had about 20. I don't know if we had 25.
Yep.
I mean, the match, both of these guys aren't the best workers. Troy Otto will be the first to tell you that he wasn't that good in the ring. And Iranian Sheik was not even supposed to wrestle, so this really wasn't the best choice, technically speaking. But it's because of what happened, you know, that we put these guys in a bunkhouse match. You know. Because they turned on Butcher and everything.
Yep.
Sheik's a freak.
Yeah, that's what they're chanting.
That hurt. Oh, he grabbed his
What we need to do is see the
leg,
Sheik get thrown out, but I don't even know if he ever does.
Sheik. Oh, it's thrown over. By Butcher. Bulldog the Butcher. There's kick in the back. Oh, and he's starting to wheel on him. And it's too effective. This Bulldog comes back with a wild one. Kicks him. Kicks him again.
Oh, he's trying to get
Oh.
out, but we're right
Almost.
there.
Right back in. Bulldog pushes him.
He picked the wrong spot to try and get out.
Yeah,
He got a strap somewhere. And whipping him.
he got one of our straps from the strap match.
Some match here. He's whipping him over again and over again. Gets his strap out. Oh,
There's Kelsey next to me.
oh.
Me and Taylor getting into it.
What is this? Carson and Taylor going outside the ring.
Bandar separates us. Oh, there's Tokyo Terror.
Oh, Sheiks. Push down. Goes for the pin. Can't get, he punches on him.
You know, I'd love Dave to get a hold of Peter again, but man, trying to find Peter Wynn, that name is just way too common.
Bulldog.
It's just too hard to find him. I have tried.
In the face. And
Yep.
now the Sheik.
We've talked about that. I mean, off camera, you mentioned you thought you were close a couple times, but
Yep. You know, and it's been 40, 35, 40 years, so people change, so it's hard. When you do find Peter Wins and you try to look at him like, is that him? You know, it's been so many years. It's hard
yep.
to say.
He's got him in a headlock. Bulldog. Bulldog the Butcher.
Bulldog to the Bulldog.
I was just thinking the same thought.
But he can't
Yeah.
Sheik.
You know, Dave,
I
this is
don't
the
remember the finish.
This is the 37th anniversary of this card, right? I mean, in 3 years it'll be 40 years
Wow.
of these armory events.
Starts to wheel on him. There is some fights outside the ring.
Well, I mean,
Have you
There's a Sheik out.
go ahead.
The Sheik
go ahead?
goes back
Well,
in, there's
have you ever
Sheik
thought
out.
about getting a group of guys together that you are still in contact with, and then go to like
Oh,
you know a real match somewhere, and all wear the shirts and I'll just kind of like bring it back a little bit?
starts to wheel on
Well, you know, when we did the documentary, and that was back in 2004, there was a few of us,
Uh-oh, there's
like
Inner
Sergeant
Circle
Smash out
outside the
there,
ring.
Chris
Too
Hansen
much
for
going
one,
on.
was
Oh,
so much wanted to do a reunion card while we were still able to. You know, we were still young enough back then, and we came close. We started talking to the armory and seeing what it would take. We were going to do maybe another armory card again,
That's what they're trying to do.
and we talked about it,
Oh,
but
Nick.
nah, it never happened.
Yeah.
But we did. We were actually,
Oh, dog.
you know, I remember telling Chris, you know, if we're going to do this, we have to have somewhere where we can set the ring up and practice again because it's been too long. We got to get in the ring and practice again before we do something like this.
Whoa.
So we're going to get a ring and set it up at his house to practice before we did this. We had it all, we were working it all out, but
In.
never happened.
Stay out there too long in this match.
Part of the problem is I was living in Wisconsin at the time, and he's in Minnesota, and it was just I was out of the area.
And they
Yep. But there is talks for 40th anniversary.
Yep. Maybe not so much getting in the ring, but at least doing something at the Armory again. Get
Yeah.
another independent wrestling league involved with this.
Everyone going in. Little push and shove here.
So is Eddie Sharkey still involved
Down in the audience.
Oh,
in
he doesn't
promoting it all?
no, he doesn't promote anymore, but he's still alive and kicking. He's old. I believe he was using a cane for the longest time. I think he might even be in a walker now. But
Hmm. It'd be kind of cool if he knew like an indie league that could actually get booked on the, booked at the Armory, and then have a bunch of you guys like show up.
Well, that's what we're talking about doing next year. Or is it next year, Dave, for the 40th of the league?
Yep,
Yeah.
next year is the 40th of the inception of the league.
And oh my gosh!
And we're actually talking
Yep.
about doing that.
Preston follows Taylor to the dressing room, and he pushes him into the wall.
So we'll go back to the Armory with one of the local indie leagues in the area, and it'll be kind of like a dual event.
It's a wild melee.
Except we just do a lot of talking.
Yeah. We'll be there and interacting with the fans, and maybe have a ceremony in somewhere in the middle of that show.
Or maybe you could also be referee.
Yeah, I thought about it when independent shows came through Wisconsin. I always came close to reffing for them, but back when I was in my 20s. So that was the May 9th Anoka Armory Superstars Spectacular 86 is what we called it.
It was our first big event.
Yep.
Promoter Matt Kelsey.
Yeah, I would just give credit where credit always wasn't necessarily the case. I just like to put everybody's name in there somehow. Mike Manthe actually was our camera operator.
Okay.
I love how Jason sells it with the belts as he's walking around during the match, holding the world titles. Yeah, Louis Hildebrand, that was that one you were asking, who was that ref?
Yep.
Jason
Oh,
Addison
Jason
was?
Addison.
Yeah, he was doing the music, actually. Steve did do that lighting unit.
Yep, and Jerry, I'm sure, did the makeup for him and Tim.
Yep. Yeah, this is part of the DVD release, so that's where this is taken from. That's why there's 2 copyrights.
Yep.
86 for the event, 2004 for the DVD. So yeah, that was the first Armory event. Dave, what'd you think? I mean, you were there.
Yep, it's the Superstar Summer Spectacular.
Yep. And it was just a fun time.
It is available at NWF at our website under the products, along with these wonderful T-shirts.
Of course, that's nwfwrestling.org. And you can find all that stuff there. And yeah, that was just...
Products link.
I mean, it was fun to watch this event again, you know, these big Armory cards. Now, when we do July 26th, which is going to be in July, obviously, that was the lowest attended Armory card that we ever did, which was about 50 fans, which 50 fans in an independent show is actually not bad, but wasn't the 350 like we had just now.
It wasn't the NWF standards.
Yeah. And that July 26 card is the worst lit one of them all. I mean, a little bit darker than this one even, but I just wish we had the foresight to see better lighting.
Right.
But
you know, the one I'm looking forward to is when we do the August show.
Oh yeah, August 23rd.
You know,
Yep.
We've got some special plans for that one, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep, that'll be a fun one. Now, Dave, you mentioned next week you're going to be gone,
Right.
out of town. We've already talked with Jamie McParlin. He's agreed to come in and take your place next week, so he'll be here to fill in. He was our guest not too long ago.
Oh no, I'm going to lose my spot.
For 1 week. And Jamie has requested that we watch the Dry Dock show where he and I had our match that he talked about on one as a guest. So we'll do the Dry Dock show next week with Jamie, and that'll be a fun one to watch. I haven't watched Dry Dock in a while, so it'll be kind of cool to see one of those Dry Dock shows. Especially, and it was Jamie's not lying. It was a good match we had. It's just I got booed. I got booed for no reason, and it just threw me.
Yep, I remember you. we were talking about it before, and Jamie commented, said something to you in the ring or something. You got booed.
No, afterwards he came up to me and gave me shit right away, which I would have done the same thing. So that's just how you are when you're that age.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was because we're so into our characters, and it's like you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, we at the time we lived our gimmicks.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, this card that we watched.
You did a great job portraying your characters.
Yep. This I was gonna say this card though was pretty big thing in Anoka. I remember when I went to school that following week, that was kids coming up to me talking about it. In fact, I remember kids that I knew personally that were down in Anoka didn't come into the event, but tapped on the window in the dressing room just to say hi, and they acknowledging that we were there at the Armory.
Yep, big sign out front, junior professional wrestling.
Yep. Yeah, that was a fun show. I know at some of those Armory events, I think I did it on October 18th I rented one of those, those big spotlights that, put a big light and go around. I rented one of those for the night of the event to help, attract people. Yep.
Well, and I remember for some of the events, you'd have one of those big yellow boards out front.
Yeah, the lit up signs.
All-Star Wrestling.
Yep. And also, I remember freaked Chris Barger out because I was using All-Star Wrestling. I was using Vern Gagne's trademark. And Chris brought an article. This is before the October card. He says, look at, Vern just sued somebody out in the sticks for using All-Star Wrestling. We're going to get in trouble. I can just see it. I can't be involved. I'm going to have to step out of this card. I just can't be involved. Like, Chris, are you not, what are you worried about? So that's why Chris wasn't on the October card, because he was convinced that Vern was going to come down on us. Vern knew we were doing that. Vern turned a blind eye to us. Yeah. He isn't going to go after a bunch. He isn't going to go after a bunch of kids.
It's like we talked about.
You were never competition.
No. Vern's up. AWA's up here. We're like down here.
Yeah,
we're two different things. Yeah.
No, if you asked if we were competition for Ed Sharkey,
well,
that's a different story.
No, that just numbers. I mean, the reason Eddie wanted to do an event with us is because he heard about the crowds we had. So he just wanted a piece of the action. It was dollars with him. But I didn't care. For me, it was like, all right, great, I'll do it. But yeah, it's this acknowledgement of us. Some, famous trainer wants to do a show with us. I was all for it.
And he came to you about doing the show.
Well, I mean, Steve brought us. Steve's the one who introduced me to him. Steve wanted to go meet him, but Eddie wanted to do the show. Yeah, it wasn't me asking Eddie. Eddie asked us, hey, we got to do something together.
Yep.
That's why I say I think the reason Eddie wanted to do an event with us is because he's seen the numbers. 350 fans at the first Armory card. He heard about it. Remember, Jim Mitchell showed up to that event, so that word got out in the wrestling community.
Oh yeah, they were talking, and you should see what these kids are drawing.
Yep. And so, but again, like Tom even mentioned, Vern isn't going to get down on us. We're not competition for him. Vern's more worried about McMahon at this point in time. He's not worried about us.
Yep.
And, and not only that, we had all that positive community support going on for us. That would just be bad publicity for Vern to come down on us. And I learned years later on the Eyewitness News Report, with Larry Burnett, had told me years later that he had to get Vern Gagne to agree to use the AWA footage on that article, on that news story. So if Vern had a problem with us, he would have said, no, I don't want you using any of our footage. Now, Vern kind of respected what we were doing enough to let the AWA footage be used in that article, on that news. Remember that news report? And Mad Dog
Yep.
Vachon and Jerry Blackwell, and we had them in the thing. But yeah, no, this is a fun show.
Mhm.
And so Dave, I guess enjoy yourself next week when you're off the show. You're being
Oh, yeah, you know
replaced
I will.
shortly by Jamie McParland.
The man I brought into the company.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not one of those insecure wrestlers that's worried about losing my spot. I only say that in jest.
No, Jamie's. If Jamie was going to replace you, I don't know if he has the schedule. We had a hard time just getting him to commit to the next week. His schedule is pretty full. So, yeah. But anyways, I guess that's
It's
it.
been a fun show
for tonight.
Thank you for joining us, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for joining in, Tom.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it was great seeing you.
It's always great listening to what you guys have to talk about.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate everybody that joins us live. So that's cool. I hope you had fun watching this one tonight. This was a fun show for us.
Oh, yeah. It had to give you a little, how would I describe it? That one was like butterflies in your stomach, knowing that this was like your first armory.
Oh, yeah. Yep. No, all night long when you were waiting for your match, it was while everybody else is going out. That's why it was hard for me being one of the last matches. I had to wait all that time. But I was constantly working with the other kids, though, too, so it kind of went by easier for me than I'm sure the others.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who had it rough was Peter Wynn and Steve Owens, the Black Panther, the first match. That's a tough one to go out there for the beginning. Yeah. Not knowing what to expect, not knowing how the crowd's going to react. Yeah.
And, you know, granted, the crowd might have been quiet during that, but I think it was out of respect, you know.
Well, they didn't know. They just didn't know how to react. It was when the Sheik came out with the Russians, that's when they knew, okay, we're going to boo the bad guys. We're going to cheer the good guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, but yeah, so thanks for joining us, Tom. It was great having you on.
Thank you.
All right. And Dave, that's going to do it.
Yep. You know, next week it'll be a nice show for you and Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie, you know, he was a great guest, remember? We had him on as a guest. And so that part was whoops, I think my screen froze. Are you there, Dave? Can you see me?
Oh, I'm here. I can see you.
Right. But yeah, that was why is this thing freezing on me? Oh, there we go. That Jamie was a fun guest. I think that was a great show. So it's going to be great doing a show with him again next week. I'm looking forward to it while you're out of town.
Yeah.
But when you return on May 25th, we're hopefully going to have Ace Andrew Carlson as your special guest. And at least that's what we got penciled in. So we'll see. You know, as Dave and I always say, cards subject to change. You never know what comes up on these things. And so we'll just play it by ear. But that's kind of tentatively the plan.
All righty.
Terry Kosnapple is another one we got to get on here as a guest.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the comments early.
I know he was watching with his family and everything, so maybe he didn't want to be too distracted with everything. But we will get him on as a guest. And he did say to me this evening that he wants to come on too. So he's just busy moving right now and stuff. So and I know how that goes.
Yeah.
So
we gotta try and get Conan on here.
Yeah, and Conan the Barbarian. I'd love to see Terry Block come on with us.
Yep.
So much to talk about with all these guys. So it'd be fun. But
So for this week, I think we'll call it a wrap.
Yep. That was a good show.
And good show. For Crosser Crossing, I'm Dixie Dave. Until next time.
We'll see you next week.